The fact that Republicans were saying this when she was the House Speaker. Maybe if you listened, maybe if you decided to take a trip, maybe if you heard from these CBP agents, by the way, who every single day have to become processing folks instead of actually working to secure the border, or maybe pick up that fentanyl that we keep hearing about making its way into the country, you would have fixed this problem a year ago, and we wouldn't be facing the 300,000 monthly crossings.
Yeah, border correspondent Jaeson Jones live now in Arizona, which has also seen a recent surge in illegal crossings there in Lukeville. You know, it's interesting too, Jaeson, we're having this conversation about the border and how certain politicians see it. And now you've got Mexico having their own demands now. They want the blockade against Cuba removed or suspended, that suspension there. Remove all sanctions against Venezuela and grant 10 million Hispanics living in the U.S. the right to remain and work legally. The U.S. calls it a tall order, but all this sidelining fentanyl coming across the border, Jaeson.
Oh, well, Sean, Emma, good morning, and I think that's well said. All the while, Mexico is producing massive amounts of poison, sending it throughout our country, as we've lost 112,000 Americans. Absolutely unacceptable. You know, and you guys were just talking about how U.S. Customs and Border Protection are now just doing overwhelming processing. Well, I'm here. This is Camp Canopy. This is in Lukeville, Arizona, where tens of thousands of people have been processed as a result of the border policies. But I want to show you what it looks like when you're out here. On Saturday night, I was driving along the border walls about 5 to 7 miles in some of the most remote country. Take a look at what Border Patrol agents are having to deal with as I had this encounter.
Where's home? No? Africa?
Senegal.
Senegal. Oh, okay. Bueno.
Guinea.
Guinea?
Conakry.
Senegal. Nepal? No kidding, Nepal. Where are you going? Detroit, Texas, New York. New York?
California.
California. Where are you going?
Memphis.
Memphis. You got family there? You got family in Memphis? Familia?
My best friend.
Best friend, I see.
Caravan?
You know, guys, I've been working this border since 1999, and to see people from so far, you know, most of those were West Africans and some from the Asian countries. But I got to tell you, you know, I've been working this border since 1999. I've never seen anything like that. I still think about that. On Saturday night, I watched as men and women of Border Patrol processed approximately 300 people. And last night, somewhere between 100 to 150. Now, the temperatures here have dropped tremendously. I mean, it was 31 degrees when I got out here this morning. That impacts illegal immigration tremendously. But I can tell you, as the sun's now risen and the hours move on, we'll see those numbers start to crop up, and we're going to be getting you some more images throughout the day.
You know, Jaeson, what stood out to us is the long journeys that some of these migrants have embarked upon. If you're coming from Senegal, how did they get to Arizona?
You know, I asked them that, Emma. It's funny you mentioned that. You know, in the old days, you couldn't have flown to Mexico the way things have been opened up. This is really something about, you know, like when I think of the Chinese that we used to get when I was still working with DPS, you know, and I would listen to the Cartel de Golfo as to how they were moving them into the country. These people were barely alive. I mean, they were having to go literally down the Horn of Africa. Then they'd get on cargo ships and they'd ride in the middle of the cargo over to the South American and make their way up. And the average age was in the 20s to 40s, because if you were elderly, you would die along the trip. Now, because of long haul smugglers and how coordinated all this is with NGOs, they're just flying into Mexico and then making their way through the smuggling organizations, making their way north, or they fly into South America. And then the underground Uber, as we call it, then smuggles them north. So look, you know, this has been allowed, Emma, and, you know, eventually through the natural course of all time, all truth is going to be revealed to the American people of how they've been taken advantage of on this.
All right. And all the people in that video that you just showed us, they were adult men, seemed to be relatively healthy and single, at least in that image. Jaeson Jones, thanks so much for that update. We appreciate that exclusive reporting.